All right, so let's talk about discovering your voice. And when I talk about voice, I don't necessarily mean your physical voice. Talking about more of an analogy. Although when you're a singer, it's a great analogy because when you're a singer and you like your voice, you have confidence and you feel free to express yourself. You know, you want to put yourself out there, take risks, try things, learn things, and express your creativity to your fullest. And I think that's the same thing that goes for any artistic endeavor, whether it's a painter or a poet or a different kind of musician. You know, when you find the instrument or you find the tone that you like, you know, you just like all of a sudden it just kind of unlocks, the feedback in your brain. You just want to keep going. I think that I've experienced that with guitar, and I think that happens with all endeavors. And so when you find that, you really have that confidence to express your creativity to its fullest capacity. I just mentioned that, when I was playing guitar, I noticed that feedback when I was able to find the tone that really worked for me. Another example was when I was in advertising as a copywriter. I mentioned, before in my stories, one thing that I thought was interesting was when I was doing the advertising, and I was always trying to find what's the reason why somebody would buy this? What's the essence, or the, how would this resonate with somebody? And when I found the ones that I really, really enjoyed, when I came up with the ideas I really, really enjoyed, after a while I started to see that the different ads I'd come up with all kind of had a similar quality to them. They actually all had my voice. I didn't realize it at the time when I was doing it, but when I looked back, I was able to see that they all had this kind of quirky, weird way of looking at the world perspective, and some irreverent, sarcastic aspects to it that were all kind of very much clearly mine. One of my favorite examples to make it clear, a voice, a distinct voice, is the dialogue in any Quentin Tarantino movie. Whether it's Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill or his latest one, you can tell a Quentin Tarantino movie based on the way that the actors talk with each other, the dialogue and the rhythms and the styles, and the kind of the subject matter even. So you can just kind of tell a Quentin Tarantino just by his voice. It just really comes through. Same thing with Aaron Sorkin, very different from Quentin Tarantino. Very, very fast, very, very witty, very smart. Everybody's brilliant in these movies because he tends to focus on what he really is interested in, and it tends to come across intellectually. A different example is Picasso as a painter. Even though he had several different styles of painting, you can still tell a Picasso from other painters. It just, when the truth inside of you resonates, your voice kind of comes out naturally. When I taught copywriting and advertising way back when, one of the best assignments I remember giving actually came from Gabriel Rico, who wrote Writing the Natural Way. I gave them the assignment of just picking their favorite author and writing an ad in the style of their favorite author. And everybody did. Everybody had a favorite author, they're writers. And you could just very clearly tell the differences, and you could hear the voices come out of those other authors, because people were able to pick up on the rhythms and the styles and the choices that were made. And by doing that, by picking a different voice, the authors were also, the writers, my students, were also able to actually free themselves creatively because they were able to just kind of take on a different persona and let their mind go with that person's voice. It's kind of a neat thing. It's kind of like actors. When you come up with a voice, you can just follow the logic that voice gives you and create from there. How do you discover your voice? Well, one of the ways is to consider, what is it that you like? What inspires you? Who would you like to aspire towards? For me, with music and guitar, it was Jimi Hendrix and David Gilmour. They're both very, very expressive guitar players. The way that they could play solos was interesting and emotionally involved. I also love the sound of two guitars playing off each other, like in the Eagles or Thin Lizzy. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's just my voice. So that's kind of the beginning way to discover your voice, is to find out what is it that inspires you. Who would you like to emulate if you could? Obviously, you don't want to copy somebody, although, Picasso said, great artists steal. So who knows? But basically, follow your inspiration. Find out what you like and what your tastes are. Similarly, who do you not like? What doesn't work for you? And is there a reason why? Like, for example, although I love Jimi Hendrix and David Gilmour, who are considered amazing guitar players, worldwide, Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton are as well. And they do nothing for me. And from as far as I can tell, they're just something less emotional about them. They just seem to be more mechanical. It just seems to be the rhythms aren't quite what work for me. So that's kind of a distinction between the two. It's like, yes, I like this, but no, I don't like this. The other thing that's interesting is, even though I like certain artists, like for example, I love Cezanne, I don't like every Cezanne. And same thing with Picasso. I don't like every Picasso. There are certain Picassos I love. There are certain Cezannes I love. There are certain Matisse. There are certain paintings from these artists that really work for me. And that's my voice. Consider taking on this exercise. Go and find 30 examples of what you like from whatever endeavor you're trying to achieve, whatever your, whatever creative expression you want to move towards. Find 30 things that you like and find 30 things that you don't like in that space, and try to see what the differences are between them, and try and see if there's like a fundamental of communication behind it. Like, is it a rhythm? Is it texture? Is it the way that they, they're too loud, they're too quiet, they're too, too move, there's too much movement, they're too boring, what are the distinctions between them, and see if you can identify those kinds of things. Be a little bit analytical around your taste, don't ruin, the magic, but just see if there's kind of reasons why certain things work for you and certain things don't. And similarly, when you're creating, when you're coming up with new things, when you're practicing, when you're trying to learn a skill, consider, chasing your inspiration. Consider emulating what it is that inspires you. I painted this painting. This is obviously not a real Cezanne, so I could learn and also enjoy the process of learning as I painted. So this was something that was very interesting to me to paint. Even though I didn't have my own idea, I was able to say, but I love this Cezanne, and I really love the colors, and I love the shapes and the style of what he was doing. And so I took on that effort to try to learn about it. I would never try and sell this as an original, but I still am very proud of it, even though it's got some rough edges all over the place. But the idea was, while I was doing it, I was learning and I was enjoying it, and I was also kind of discovering what inspired me about it. And finally, when you're trying to discover your voice, fill your tank. Go out and learn about what's out there, both in the thing you want to do, whatever creative expression that is, and also outside of it. Let the world, kind of inform you and your subconscious to come up with ideas and give you the fuel that you can play with to be able to come up with new ideas and create. And so, even if you don't like a particular style of art, or if, for example, if you're doing art, even if you don't like a particular style, go check it out. Go look at it a little bit deeper, and go to places that you wouldn't normally go to. Find yourself in places that you wouldn't always go, because that can expand your awareness of what's out there. And you might discover your voice is actually somewhere you haven't actually ever been. So don't be afraid to go and learn new things, try new things, and keep filling your tank.